Did You Have To is a proud member of the But Why Though podcast community.
Welcome back to Did You Have To, the podcast where two bad bitches talk about anime. And here are your hosts, Kate and Neysha. Yeah! Neysha's quirk, stress ball. By internalizing her stress about the world being in chaos and crime, she converts that stress into a superpower, becoming a badass. Kate's quirk, waifu warrior. By just watching her favorite shows, she can manifest real or fictional characters into the real thing. They come to life and fight by her side. Not every character does it, though. She has to find the individual really hot. Yeah!
Hey everyone, we're back from a tiny hiatus. I'm Kate.
And I'm Neysha.
And today we're talking all about Yaoi.
Yes. This is... No, you go ahead.
No, it's been a while. It's been a while since we've recorded.
Technically, yeah, if people missed the live episode, it has been a while. But I was gonna say this is just like this has been an episode that has been a long time coming. I feel like they have listened to this, so it feels like a good way to come back off of a small hiatus.
It does. Get your thirst buckets ready, get some water. We're diving in. But the important thing we have to tell you is that this episode is actually sponsored by Yaoi Crate.
Yeah, Kate, you actually have a Yaoi Crate, right?
I did. I got the first one that they've shipped out. And if you're not familiar with Yaoi Crate is a subscription box that offers 100% officially licensed BL merch, manga, and doujin, with 4 to 6 items per box and exclusives that you can only get from Yaoi Crate. The first crate, which came out in October, they did a partnership with Rotten Blossoms. So that had doujin, and then this last one for November was a partnership with Faku. I believe Koma is their Yaoi brand, but Faku, if you don't know, is the hentai publisher in the United States. And I say the hentai publisher. But I will say they're really fun. It's both adorable and sexy, which is kind of what you want your yaoi to be half the time anyway. If it's not Yakuza yaoi, but yeah.
I mean, it can be. No, what am I saying? Yakuza yaoi is just straight hot. there is no room for adorable. It's just hot.
Yup. And we're gonna get into it today.
Yes.
But yeah, so before we get started, I do want to kind of go over some terms that we'll use throughout, because yaoi, more affectionately known as boys love or BL, which is also what I'll probably slip into calling it here, means a lot of things, and there are kind of different variations to it. So the 3 words that you'll hear come up a lot when you're talking about BL. BL is what you'll hear most commonly because of the negative connotations associated with yaoi. So there is BL, there is yaoi, and there's shonen-ai. So shonen-ai in Japan literally means the love of a young boy, and this term was used to refer to some works by 24 Nengumi Shoujo mangaka, such as Muro Hajeo and Keiko Takamiya in the 1970s and 80s in Japan specifically. Shonen-ai's narration revolved around a shonen, so this is specifically like a really pretty adolescent boy protagonist and his struggles with love. So this was never specified what kind of love it was, if it was heterosexual or queer romances. It was just love. But within the English-speaking community, shonen-ai is heavily based on shojo manga and was developed in the time where essentially explicit sexual scenes were not the norm in girl-targeted work. So essentially you end up with shonen-ai, which is now essentially boys love manga, but there is no sexually explicit scenes in it. So that's your quick breakdown. It's probably not 100% correct. These terms are used by fandom, and I am a woman in the West, in the US specifically. this means something very different to us than it does in Japan. Also, for reference in the show notes, I will include the article that I am using for reference, which is from Fudakiya, which is a Yaoi subscription site that I currently have a subscription for because I never canceled it. So the next term is Yaoi. Yaoi came from a different environment compared to shojo-ai. In 1979, a Dojinka group released an amateur anthology, Rappori, which used the term yaoi for the first time. Yaoi is an abbreviation of Yamanashi, Ochinashi, and Iminashi. No climax, no anticlimax, and no meaning. This term basically means that there is no actual plot in the work, and usually has two men getting together, mostly in an erotic manner. So that's what it means in Japan. In the US or English-speaking community, both fan spaces and the commercial industry have used the word yaoi for decades. After it was exported to the English-speaking communities, specifically in the 2000s, yaoi was found yaoi was found in English publishers and licensors' websites. It was actually marketed as yaoi versus just a descriptor. And that is something that is not the same in Japan. So although the word yaoi was probably one of the most conveniently used terms, it strongly connotes something that is erotic and is explicit. So that's where that sits. And then the final one is boys love, or BL. In Japan, boys love, or BL, is a term coined during the male-male fiction bubble in the 1990s. This was the time where there were so many terms to define male-male romantic fiction, and many titles were still categorized under shoujo manga instead of having their own category. It is believed that magazine Image was the first to use the word BL routinely, and since then, BL finally became the official term used for original commercial male-male fiction work. In the English-speaking community, in the past, we may have seen yaoi as a more well-known term internationally for the community that is built around boys love. However, in the past decade, there has been a significant emergence of the word BL in markets around the world, even in the non-English ones, although for some people, BL is simply the replacement word for any other term they have known before, like yaoi, shonen-ai, or even slash. However, it's just used to define the genre. So if I contextualize this for people who are like, okay, Kate, you spoke really fast and I still don't know what this means. You can call everything under the male umbrella of fiction boys love, or BL. But shonen-ai will never be explicit. Yaoi can be explicit. And if you talk about yaoi in like general public or within the communities, it will be seen as sexually explicit. Neysha, any questions?
No, I feel like I just had a crash course in Yaoi 101, which I think that should be the name of the episode.
Yaoi 101, classes in session.
Yes, I love it. No, but I think all of that's very helpful because like I think I've read more shonen, you said shonen-ai?
Shonen-ai.
Right? Shonen-ai. So I think I've read more of those. Like Blue Flag for me really sticks out. So like knowing the definitions, like for people who are listening to this, and if you're curious about BL or yaoi and you want to dip your toe in the pool, I think this is very helpful for our audience to know, because like for me, I honestly have a Kate. I don't know if y'all have a Kate through this show, but I have a Kate who tells me and yells at me to go read things. And I just usually trust her judgment.
Yes. And possibly share sexually explicit yaoi images in chats to be like, look, it's hot. Go read it.
What is our friendship? If nothing but. At this point, we need a list. If nothing but betting you / bribing you to read something. Exchanging anime figures with one another as gifts. And then just, appreciating very hot anime men together.
Yep. And I will say, so like yaoi for me is something that I've always kind of been interested in. But I've never actually been a large part of like the fujo community. So fujo is short for fujoshi. Fujoshi is what a lot of yaoi readers call themselves, specifically if they're women. And then fudanshi is what a male yaoi reader is called. But fujo for short for both. So I guess I've read enough and own enough yaoi to call myself fujo, but like quarantine has expanded my manga and like webcomic reading immensely. So this was when I first started really like not just dipping my toe into like yaoi, but like I've also been reading Yuri, which is women fiction, and then also of course like the josei smut, which is just the heterosexual stuff that we and honestly, if you want to hear me and Neysha talk about our recommendations in the world of smut, you can head on over to patreon.com/butwhythough and listen to Manga Trash, where we live in the trash bin. And dear Lord, are there some trashy titles that we have reviewed over there.
The fire in his fingertips.
Yes.
If that's not enough to get y'all to go listen to us talk about manga trash with one another.
And the fire in his fingertips is so good, though.
It is so good. It's like, you go in just expecting smut, but this is story. I mean, there's that one where the other trashiest one is My Boss is an XL, which
that one is just trash.
It's so trash. It's so trash. Everything about it is trash. Nothing makes sense. It's porn with plot.
There's no plot.
You're right, there's no plot.
But
we don't get that. We don't get into that here. Y'all go to Manga Trash for that.
But so what I will say is I definitely held a lot of it is like Neysha and I are two straight women, fairly straight women. Speaking for myself, not for you. Who are talking about yaoi, which is a genre of storytelling. So, and I guess talking about BL more generally, because I do want to talk about the amazing world of BL in Korea manhwa, which is on things like Tapas and Leshin, and Tabitoon. Amazing titles. Like I've bought in too many coins. Just gonna be honest.
Oh, also Webtoon.
Oh, I mean, granted,
Webtoon doesn't. Well, okay, it's different because I don't know who all or where all the creators are from, because Webtoon has a collection of creators from around the world. But that's where I've gotten a lot of my BL from lately. There is like a genre for it all.
Webcomics has really exploded BL in a very interesting way, because like while I'm newer to the community, I have been doing a lot of reading and doing a lot of tracking of like publishers, just hunting down like really good titles to read, because I have literally nothing better to do. So I just read like 50 chapters of manga at night. And so what's really cool is you have a lot of the first BL that I was introduced to was really doujins, like doujins of existing franchises, right? So if you have not listened to us before and you don't know what doujinshi is, or doujin, which is the easiest way to say it.
Yep.
Doujin is fan published, self-published content, and a lot of the time that doujin in like Harry Potter folks got fanfic. We got full-on manga.
We got like, I'm just always impressed when I find a good doujin.
Girl, I read one called, it was like 41 days. I don't remember. But it was an Aizawa, and oh my doujin. And if that was not Horikoshi's hand, I don't know whose it was.
That is the thing. The people who make doujin, I'm just like, do you know how to, do you counterfeit as like your main gig? Like, because the art style looks very close.
I have been deceived by many a dojin panel.
Yes.
If I'm being completely honest.
Every Ichi Rukia dojin that someone would put on Pinterest, and I'm like,
okay, that is violence. That is violence. No, I have never been hurt so much more than when I realize that it's just fan art.
I just get so upset because I'm just like, oh, but it looks real. This is canon now. It's my canon.
Shout out to my boys, Hot Wings, Dobby, and
oh, that's canon too.
But so that was where I came into. So I feel like a lot of what Webtoons has done, it's opened up that self-publishing space even more. So I think that's why, and not Webtoon as in like Webtoon, but like webcomics overall has really allowed for more to come into that genre. And one of the things that I do want to call out too is like, I think that Yaoi, especially in the US, and I guess, I mean, I can't speak for all English speaking countries, but like there is a big negative connotation into, well, this is just going to be fetishy. This is just going to be like straight female mangaka, fetishizing, you know, queer romances, and usually straight female mangaka. And that's not always the case. I'm not saying that it's not there, because it is. But there is, I read a few articles, and there is a very large queer community that has built up and out around BL in Japan. And so I think that like when we talk about, because now I feel like when you use the term yaoi, a lot of Westerners, a lot of white women, to be honest, will be like, how dare you call it yaoi? Yaoi is a bad word. And it's like, okay, stop trying to make everything pure and proper. Like, it's not that deep. And there are some larger critiques to be had, but like that I think needs to be taken on a case-by-case basis, because there have been moments where I think it was an American author adapted a BL manga that was written by a straight woman into a novel, and he was a gay man, and he like did it worse, but he said that he was doing it better, and he had the right to essentially steal this mangaka's work because he was entitled to it as an American gay man. And there is just a lot at play.
Yeah.
That I don't think we have the depth to touch on. And since this is a 101 episode, we're going to put a pin in that, and we will enlist the help of people who are smarter than us in that area, but also are not just two straight women talking about yaoi. But beyond that, a lot of people just assume that BL is going to be sexually explicit and have no plot. Like it's just going to be two dudes doing it. I've read a lot of that.
That's called smut.
That's smut. But more largely, I have found actually some of the most powerful and emotional stories that I've read over the last like 10 months now have been BL stories. And like just to go through a few, like what BL especially now is doing a lot more overtly is really embracing confronting social stigmas and homophobia, putting its characters through coming of age narratives that not only look at their own biases, but have them coming into their own sexuality in a lot of the ways that the nuance of shojo has given to female characters, or even like just when you think of like coming of age, when we think of a coming of age drama, we think about, a young woman coming into her own into usually a heterosexual relationship. And what a lot of the BL that I've been reading is the exact opposite. And a lot of times you have like the friends to lovers trope that comes in. And I really love those stories because you're dealing with characters who have had such a strong friendship, and they have to, for lack of better words, like come to terms with understanding that their relationship isn't just platonic. It isn't just friendship. It is something more. So Tokyo Pop which we're not going to get into all the politics behind Tokyo Pop, but Tokyo Pop has a line of queer romances, both yaoi and yuri, under their Love X Love imprint. And one of my favorites is There Are Things That I Can't Tell You. And that is a one-shot BL where you are dealing with two adults now who are still really good friends, but have had a past of telling each other that they loved each other and then rejecting each other because of like the outside social pressures. And then the entirety, and that you find that out like a quarter through the book, and then the rest of it is them trying to make it work and trying to understand themselves and like ultimately making the decision that it doesn't matter what everybody else says, right? That it's about them. And that one is so like, that is a BL. It's not smut. There is sexually explicit scenes in there. But it's not like the bulk of it. I mean, there's some hot scenes in there. Same thing with Replay or Dekaboko Sugar Days, which are two other yaois also under Tokyo Pop's imprint. But I wouldn't call them smut. It's more like, oh yeah, these two characters had sex. Okay, cool. Fulfillment. We've seen what happens. And then you also have stories like Given, which Given is probably one of my favorite anime and manga in existence. Not even just like my favorite yaoi or my favorite BL, but like just my favorite. And this is published by Sublime, which is Viz's BL imprint, which I highly recommend all of Sublime mangas. BL, they're really good. Like I have bought too much. If you're listening to this and you also follow my husband on Twitter, don't tell him how much BL I have bought from Sublime. It's almost their whole catalog. It's kind of a problem.
Self-care, treat yourself. I'm an enabler.
But in Given, you have a character who knows his sexuality, who's had a boyfriend before, but lost that boyfriend and is having to deal with the grief and guilt of losing him. And then you have another character who is falling in love with him. So it's Mafuya and Ritsuka. And then Mafuya's the one who already knows who he is and is dealing with that grief and processing. And then Ritsuka is the other boy in the band who is like having to realize, oh my God, that's what these feelings are. This is love. Like I am attracted to him. And then they're in a band with two older members who are in college and they have their own thing going on. But ultimately the first two volumes of that and then the season of the anime are really focused on what grief is like, what overcoming grief is like, and what finding love through that grief is. And it's one of the most powerful stories that I've ever read. And it's a BL. And I think a lot of the times what happens in fandom, what happens in manga communities and in anime communities is people just kind of write BL off as pretty much as hentai, or they write it off as like it's going to be extremely fetishy. It's not going to actually tell anything. It's not going to have plot. And that's not the case. Yeah. And then, I mean, we can even just bring up Blue Flag, Neysha, which you're reviewing on the website, which is a shonen-ai. So like, and this is like, consider the titles I just listed as your primer to get into BL. I also have a list on our website that I will include in the show notes. It's 8 titles that you can go check out. They're not super steamy, but you can DM me and I will give you the steamy titles.
Like a dealer almost, like, hey,
I have supernatural werewolves, I have yakuza, I have vampires, I have idols, I got it all. Like I have the Rex.
Yes.
But if you want to, let's talk about a little bit about wholesome and talk about Blue Flag.
Okay. Yeah, no, so Blue Flag is one of my favorite, and like to Kate's point, using the terms from earlier, it classifies more of more as a shonen-ai, because So just to give y'all a quick synopsis on it, it's like an unexpected love triangle with a dash of unrequited love, with two classmates, a boy and a girl, begin to fall in love with each other when each of their best friends have already fallen in love with them. First off, drama. Back to Kate's point, or previous point, there is great plot and story in like shonen-ai BL, and I feel like this is a shining example of it, because like I have never seen a story told like this. The idea of like, yes, the love triangle. This Blue Flag flips the love triangle on its butt and gives you a love quadrangle.
Yeah.
And it's the best. It has the, well, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but it is the friends to unrequited love. With one friend basically for majority of the series, not both friends, sorry, the girl and the boy who are friends to the other boy and the girl don't know that their friends, their best friends, are in love with them for the majority of the series. And I think it's important because it deals, so let's just talk about the characters real quick. This isn't a review of Blue Flag, which we can make a whole episode of that once the series concludes. We should. But you have Toma, who is the boy who is in love with his best friend. And he's not even the main character, but Toma's such an awesome character. But Toma is a star bank.
His design is also so good, and his little haircut.
I love his little buzz cut. And he's just, you know, Toma is the school star baseball player. He's the baseball captain and all this. And he's so popular and everybody loves him. And it's like his best friend Taishi is short and small. And he is dealing with his own stuff of like self-loathing and, you know, feeling guilt and all these other things and feelings. But it's like, to me, it's crazy because like for all the reasons that Taishi like is like hard on himself and hates himself, Toma looks at him and is in love with him. And Taishi doesn't know. He doesn't know.
It's so like, it is one of those things where like, it's unrequited, but it's never awkward in the way where like they're both trying to respect and protect each other's feelings. And it's adorable because Toma is this character that you think has it all, and Taichi thinks has it all, but what Toma really wants is like the ability to feel and just be free and open in the way that Taichi is. And it is just so adorable. And I cried so much throughout the series because there is a scene where people find out that Toma does have this crush and they put him through hell. Like there's a physical fight and then Taichi has to listen to these guys just, I mean, and I guess like trigger warning, it does have a lot of homophobic language in it, but it's because it's it's showcasing those prejudices.
Yeah. And for the most part, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say and again, not so much a spoiler, but like the one guy specifically who gets in a fight is one of Toma's best friends.
Yeah.
And it's like that. And then and it's the whole reason why you feel bad for Toma throughout the series, because you can tell him keeping his secret, him struggling with his feelings and like keeping that to himself and not being able to say what he wants. Because he even says like, I just want to be able to say and feel what I want and feel free. And his whole reasoning for like, I'm just going to get a job and move out as soon as high school's over. And so like, he just wants to be away from everyone because he feels at least then he can be himself, more of himself. And he doesn't want to hurt anyone in the process. And I'm just like, this sweet boy, this sweet, precious boy just deserves the world. But then his worst fears are realized because people will tell him constantly, you seem like you're hiding something. What's wrong? And he knows like, you're not gonna, I don't.
He's like, I'm hiding myself because you're going to treat me like crap.
Right. And like, even, we didn't even talk about the two girls. Granted, this isn't a girls love story, Yuri. But like, there's that whole dynamic where like him and the other girl kind of are each other's confidants, even though they kind of have a clashing friend. They kind of clash with each other.
It's adorable. It's really good. And I've actually recommended Blue Flag to a couple of people who have wanted to like, okay, you talk about BL all the time on the timeline and I'm actually interested now. And Blue Flag is such a really good like entry point
Yeah.
But I also think that it also showcases like the importance of having like queer stories just told in general.
Yeah.
Because like when I was younger and growing up and not really sure about sex or love or even just like what type of emotions I'm supposed to be expressing or how I can talk to people. And I'm not saying that like anime and manga is like the best space to get this, because I don't want to be a shojo heroine ever. My God, are they dumb?
Good job. No. You are not Sailor Moon.
But there is something to be said for seeing the type of emotions that you're feeling represented and seeing the types of love that you want to experience represented that lets you feel like you're not alone. And it's the same reason that like we talk about wanting to see characters that look like us on screen. Having characters that reflect our identities in any way is really important. And when we offer up stories that range from like wholesome coming of age in shonen-ai Blue Flag to like smutty werewolves in Coyote. Coyote, go read Coyote. It's real good. And that's published by Sublime. You get to just go and you get to see more of what you want to experience of and I guess that like for me, and this is where it's probably important to point out that like there do need to be more like queer mangaka like writing these stories too. That being said, a lot of mangaka don't even tell you who they are. Like they don't tell you their gender, they don't tell you their sexuality. A lot of the times, like when they do Q&As, especially with web comics, you don't see their faces, you don't know anything. So all you have is just really the work they're putting out. But yeah, so start with Blue Flag. If you think if you like that, I would say graduate to Given.
Yeah.
And then from Given, if you want to go, I would say Given. And then there are Things I Can't Tell You, which is a one shot. And then if you want Steamy, come hit me up. But before because I do want to talk about Steamy and I do want to talk about webcomics, but we also want to take time to tell you about Yaoi Crate one more time. So you know that we love BL. We've already started talking about it on this episode. I pretty much mention it every other episode. So we want to tell you again about Yaoi Crate, which is a subscription box for folks just like us that offers 100% officially licensed BL merch, manga, and doujin with 4 to 6 items per box with exclusives that you can only get via Yaoi Crate. Additionally, when you order yours, you get free shipping. And for our international listeners, hi Trish, I hope you're listening. Yaoi Crate offers both US and international shipping options. Now is the time to get yours. December orders are in. They've announced that this box is actually made in partnership with Tokyo Pop. So you may get some of the titles that I am talking about right now in that box, which will be pretty cool. I have my subscription. I can tell you that I give them my money, so I totally feel fine telling you to give them your money. But yeah, they're a really good company. They just started up, so December will be their 3rd box that they shipped. But they're great folks over there. So yeah, if you are moved by our Yaoi conversations today.
If the spirit moves you. I honestly am like on their website right now. And I think I'm gonna sign up for
it. Join me in Yaoi.
That should just be your new tagline. Join me
in Yaoi.
Yeah.
I want a t-shirt that says join me in Yaoi.
Can we just make that for ourselves?
Oh yeah, we can. We have a t-shirt store. But yeah, so the next piece of this, and I've talked mainly about manga, so Japanese produced content. But I do really want to talk about manhwa and specifically that comes out of webcomics from like Tappy-Toon and Lesson. That is a wild front, because oh my god, the titles I have read on Lesson are 10 times steamier than no shade to Sublime. Like Sublime does its job, and there are some that are completely uncensored, like Therapy Game. Thank you. But you just get, there's a lot of different types of, there are more expansive subgenres and genres on in a web medium, I think, than what we're getting from like those really standard publishers. And Sublime and Tokyo Pop aren't the only two. Like Seven Seas also publishes a lot of Yuri and Yaoi. Kodansha, I believe, has a couple of BL titles. But yeah. So the first one I want to talk about is Cherry Blossoms After Winter, which is from Tappy-Toon, and it is 4 seasons long. And it is great because it is half and half. So like the first half is wholesome shonen-ai content, and then the like seasons 1 and 2 is shonen-ai, and then seasons 3 and 4 is like, whoo, they discovered what sex is. And it's actually a really adorable story. So there are 2 boys who end up growing up together and living together, and they end up living together because one of their parents dies, and so the other one's mom takes them in. And the guy is a chaebol, or like an heir to a company, and then the other one, who is like the short, tall, like very tall, muscular, white-haired boy, and then the like short brunette boy who is like thin, like just like it's the tropes.
Of course, there's a white-haired boy in this.
If you know, you know. And the entire first season of it is them having to realize, so like when they were younger, they used to be like, we're gonna get married, and then that stopped, and they thought that they hated each other. And so when we come into their story, they're in their last year of high school, and they get put into the same class, and they actually get to spend time together and talk to each other and realize that they're in love. And it is real love. It's not just platonic. And then we see them go through college, and then we see them go into the working world. And right now where they're at is like they're gonna get married, they want to get married, but the rich guy's dad has finally found out about them, and so they're having to kind of overcome that obstacle of having people accept them and moving forward. But like it's a really, really good BL title that like I think everybody should read. Also, if you're not, because like if you're not into smut, they also have an all ages version where they cut out and censor those scenes. So even if you're not into that, you can read the censored one. And censored as in they cut out the scenes entirely, not just like a glowing white.
I was gonna say, like, what do you mean cut out? Because we both know
that dicks don't exist in BL. It's just glowing. It's glowing shapes.
Pretty much, it's just like a glowing blank spot on a page,
or just a hand with nothing in it. It's interesting. And that's smut in general too. Like that's not just BL. Like that's just, it's very hard to find a penis.
They don't exist
unless you look at Sublime Manga, which publishes Therapy Game, which is completely uncensored. Okay. I think 10 counts uncensored too. Anyway, I have a lot of recommendations. But beyond that too, Lesson has a lot of really good titles that bridge, that do a lot of different things, right? So like there are vampire manga, there's idol manga or manhwa, and they're all focused on BL. And I would say like they have some of the best stories. Like I said, I've spent a lot of coins on Lesson. But the other thing I do want to touch on as you embark on your yaoi journey after this, which I hope you do, Neysha, do you know what Omegaverse is?
I do not know what Omegaverse is. What is it, Kate?
Ma'am. Okay, hold on. I'm going to make sure I use the correct thing. So this is where it's going to get a little weird. So Omegaverse isn't Yaoi specific. It does happen in other fan fiction pieces, but I've always read it in manga and manhwa. So Omegaverse, also known as ABO, Alpha, Beta, and Omega, is a subgenre of erotic fiction that was originally a subgenre of erotic fan fiction. And these stories essentially have the population split into 3 groups: the alphas, the betas, and the omegas.
Oh.
And the betas don't matter. Like, none of these stories have, like, the betas are just there. And then traditionally what you have is you have a story between an alpha and an omega. And an alpha is like, think of, like, it's based on like, it's based, I'm using bunny quotes on based because this is defunct science, but it's based on like an alpha wolf, a beta wolf, that kind of stuff. And so like an alpha is supposed to be like hyper masculine, super muscular, really giant. And then you have the omegas, which are like your bishonen, your bishonen like characters, like super delicate, super effeminate. They can get pregnant. They have uteruses. So this is where male pregnancy gets involved. And essentially it's like werewolves without them being wolves. Like, so like omegas emit like a pheromone that attracts alphas to them, and then alphas can do the same thing. And omegas go into heat, which makes for like 10 chapters of just sex. Anyway, Omegaverse is a thing. Why am I telling you this, listeners? Because you will see it when you start searching Yaoi, and I want you to be prepared. I'm
just like imagining someone just like, okay, they told me to go look up Yaoi, and they just go Google it, and then Omegaverse pops up.
Now, Omegaverse Yaoi is not bad. It's real. I read it. I enjoy it every now and then. I will say something that you will have to, because, and this is more when we're talking about the more erotic side of BL and not like the more like for plot, but if we're looking at the more erotic side of it, where it is going to be a lot of explicit content, I will say definitely check for trigger warnings and content warnings, because like in any erotic fiction, there is a lot of problematic pieces that come with it.
Yeah.
I actually think one of the largest tropes that I know a lot of people have had a lot of problems with, and I can see why, is a gay character coming onto their straight friend and then their straight friend becoming gay, or doing it through like, it's called dubcon is like what it's actually called in like the fiction world, but like dubious consent, like where it's not 100% explicit.
Yeah.
I would say with like newer titles, either it's marked that that's what's going to happen, or they kind of don't do it at all, which is really nice. You're seeing a lot of evolve. But then if you pick up a series, and I actually highly recommend this series, it's called Don't Be Cruel. So what a lot of series are that have gone on for longer pieces. So Don't Be Cruel is 9 volumes long with a couple of one-shot side stories. And that one opens with the 2 main characters. One of them is coerced into sex by the other character. And it's a pretty forceful relationship for like the first 3 volumes. And then it changes. But in the like last 2 volumes of the series, they have a friend who is homosexually assaulted. And his, so the 2 main characters, the character who was assaulted by the other one makes the comment like, oh, that would have been horrible for your first time. And his boyfriend hears that. And this is like the first time I've ever seen it in a yaoi or in a BL. That character has a self-reflective moment where he's like, I did that. I hurt the person I love like that. And so the mangaka address the way that this began, because a lot of the times what happens is you have like a really problematic start and then you end up with like this beautiful love story. And Don't Be Cruel, they actually address that, and they have the two characters talk about it and talk it out and apologize and like deal with that. So it's like that happens too. But yeah, Omegaverse, I would say, like, anytime you pull up Omegaverse, like, look for the content warnings, because that's usually going to be filled with them. But yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to add outside of like specific like tropes and specific titles, which I think we should just do more episodes for. We can invite other people to come on and talk about it with us. But
I do have some questions. Yeah, I do. Because I thought maybe this would be fun to ask for other people, but like the question I was thinking of, like, what do you look for in a good BL? Because I have my preferences and I know you have like your taste, but like, what do you look for in a good, like, you know, it's going to be a book, it's going to be a good, meaty, steamy story, but it's going to be like, is it going to be a long one? Is it going to be a specific plot? So please share.
Okay. I'm not a fan of one shots, so I want like an actual series, which is really hard to come by in manga. But in manhwa, so like in the webcomics, I don't pick up a series unless it has 40 chapters. It has to at least have 40 chapters, because I am currently reading 6 series that I have to read weekly, and I can't, like, I'm overwhelmed because I just want those chapters and I want to see what happens, because they keep ending on cliffhangers, which is a testament to how good those writers are. But they have to be longer. I don't like old protagonists. Like, I want them like my age. And they have to be hot. Obviously, if they're all hot, that's not even a requirement. But I like darker stories. So I like stories that are either going to be like supernatural, so like werewolves and vampires, or I like Yakuza stories, because I want that like thrilling edge to it too. I mean, and it's the same way with my josei for the most part. So like Twittering Birds Never Fly is probably one of my favorite mangas ever, and that one, it comes with heavy content or content warnings, but it's a really good story. It's extremely sexy. There is a segment of chapters where they have sex for like 4 whole chapters, and it's really good. It also has a really deep story, and like I just think like the darker themes is just something I'm kind of drawn to. But like that's also just what I like in my romance, because I don't want an easy romance. Like I do want to see like some struggle and tribulation, and maybe if people deal with their trauma along the way too, that's also fine. But that's usually what I look for. Also, white-haired characters. If y'all have listened to this podcast, you know I like white-haired characters.
That's a given.
So,
is he half monster man? Does he have white hair? He's Kate's type.
Yep.
I guess for me, as y'all know, I am a himbo. I am himbo trash. I like my himbos, but like mainly because like I like very tall, broad male characters who have a hearts of gold. And who are not who do not, you know, fit the toxic masculine mold, but you know, like they have hearts of gold. So like Sign is a great one that I think it's a manhwa that Kate told me about.
Yes, Sign is so good. He's so pure.
It is so precious and pure, and yes, it is also steamy, but it is so good because like you get this like giant bear of a man. And you got like, there's just like there's a budding love, which it kind of falls into that one trope, like you said, like, I'm still not sure. And it's maybe because of where I'm at right now, where like the one character, it's not made clear if this is his first relationship with a man.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is, but he's attracted to him. But then it's also just like, I'm like, I just need more clarity. But I'm also just like, I'm eager to see where this goes because I love their relationship dynamic. So big, tall, broad character with a slightly shorter person. Great. because again, I'm trash. Also, like I said, Heart of Gold, tough exterior. Yes, Sunder trash also. That's also great.
Yeah, you need to read Cherry Blossoms because it's giant, tall man, shorter character.
Well, that's how I got into the Titans Bride.
Oh my!
Another BL. Y'all, I'm like, wow.
That's smut.
Hey, I learned that there is story, and I think it might fall within Omegaverse. Now that you talked about it, I'm still not sure.
If he gets pregnant, if he can get pregnant, and if they don't just say it, but he can actually get pregnant, then it is.
I will continue to read and let y'all know. But like, basically, as the story keeps going, they're like, "Oh no, you're gonna like carry my children," and like the dude, because it's an isekai, and he gets transported there.
Okay, yeah, I would say I would say that's just isekai. I don't think it's.
I'm waiting for like some magical nonsense to happen, and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm pregnant," because like I'm not seeing the math add up.
I'm reading one. Or I forgot the name of it, but I read one Omegaverse where like the first season was like hot, steamy sex. And then like the last 2 seasons have just been them raising a child together. And it's actually been really adorable.
Okay, so I haven't experienced, like Omegaverse where there is a male character who's pregnant. But like, I do love the dynamic of found family and like the men raising a child together. And it's just like, because I'm not very well versed in Omegaverse, but like I love those stories because I've seen a lot of those in webtoons. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, it's not that like it's maybe one of their children from like a previous marriage or like their best friends, and one of them is an uncle, and they start raising the child together, and then they realize that they fall in love, and like so I love those. So I'm like, do I try Omegaverse? Maybe.
It's real steamy. Like
I like steamy
a lot of the time. I would say try one. I'll go into I'll look at like the ones that I like and I'll send you some. And if you're on Twitter, feel free to ask me if you want recommendations. I have a lot.
I mean, now we have fleets.
Oh yeah, we do have fleets. I can delete my thirst, or like Twitter will automatically delete my thirst after 24 hours.
Yeah, so stories, but I mean fleets where just follow Kate for all the fleets and you can follow me for all the One Piece content.
And I will say too, like if you're listening to this and you want to listen to like a dedicated Yaoi show where they are way smarter on the topic than me, I would say go listen to the Yaoi Shelf. That is hosted by at Aichi Yume and at Mama Loves Manga. They are 1, phenomenal follows on Twitter, but 2, they just know their shit, and they thirst like no other, and it's amazing, and I love it. And if you want more, you should go over there. Also come back here for when we do Yaoi, like the next of Yaoi, but
we should reach out and have them on the show.
That would be amazing.
If y'all listen, I know I follow Mama Loves Manga, because you're right, they are great people to follow. So I'm gonna follow the other host. But I had another question. What do we look for? Oh, I didn't finish mine. Yeah. I also look for something that is at least longer than 10 chapters. I'm okay with like short one shots as long as there's a good story, which that's hit or miss with 10 chapters. But like I'm with Kate. I would actually prefer like a lengthy story because it gives for good plot. And then
I need those twists and turns, and those twists and turns don't happen when it's a 16 chapter story.
You're right. It does not. Because it's just, I don't know. I do like the drama. I like the steaminess. I like the drama. I like to be dragged out. It's like it's like when you are up at 11 p.m. and you have to go to bed in an hour, but you find a fan fiction with 25 chapters and it's a slow burn. I read it and I stay up till 3 a.m.
The majority of the times that I have stayed up in quarantine have just been because I was reading Yaoi and I was like, I'm just gonna read 10 chapters. And I'm like, oh shit, I read 50.
Yep. Same here. Oh, my last thing. I just don't like it when they make one of the characters look younger. Like, younger. So I prefer to I like stay away. Like when one of the characters look like you look like a man, and the other one looks like they could be a 13-year-old boy.
Yeah. So I don't like it like when any romance does
I don't
that.
like any romance like that.
It's real weird, and that's where we get into that like problem territory. I'm fine with it so long as it is very clear that these characters are of age. Then I'm fine with it. Yeah. But I won't go seek it out. If it has a recommendation, I'll look at it. Mm-hmm. But yeah,
that's my like biggest thing. I'm just like, what does the other character look like? Okay, cool. They look old, and it's confirmed that they are how old? Yes, great. But yeah, that's what we looked for, I guess, in our Yaoi BL manga. Any questions from you, Kate, or are we ready to wrap this up?
Think we're ready to wrap this up. I will take a picture of my Yaoi shelf and share it, and people can look at those titles. And I can put that in the show notes if people want. But yeah, as we get ready to head out, we're going to tell you all about Yaoi Crate again because we love them, because they sponsored this episode. Again, Yaoi Crate is a subscription box that offers 100% officially licensed BL merch, manga, and doujin with 4 to 6 items per box with exclusives that you can only get in Yaoi Crate. This month's orders are open and they are doing a partnership with Tokyo Pop. I highly suggest that you get your subscription. I have a 3-month subscription right now. I love it. You can go over to my Instagram to check that out, which my Instagram is pretty much just manga now. And Yaoi. You can also get my recs there.
Quality content.
But yeah. Neysha?
Yeah, y'all can also find me on Twitter and on Instagram now at Neysha Plays. That's NEYSHAPLAYS, where I post all of my cosplay content and other things, and talk about One Piece, because I am now in the 800s, baby. Kate will lose this bate. Kate will lose.
I will say I did lose her bet. I didn't finish Olympus Lore, but Lore Olympus, I am on episode like 50 and I'm losing my shit because I hate Minth and I want to punch her in her stupid red nymph face. I hate her and I just want Persephone to be happy. And I don't know what to do because I was so in love with Apollo in Blood of Zeus. And now I have this dumb purple motherfucker who is an asshole and I hate him. And I don't know what Neysha has done with me. But
now you get big blue Hades. Not that Disney Hades. This big BD.
This Hades is
big blue dick energy.
Got that Dr. Manhattan energy.
Listen, if you're at 50, you're in for a treat.
Please put big blue dick energy on a t-shirt as well.
We definitely could, but you haven't even gotten to Aries, so I can't wait for you to meet him.
God, I'm gonna Google that man before he comes up in the webtoon. But I will say I didn't say we could find me. You can find me at Omegaverse on Twitter and Instagram, and you can find us at DYHT_pod. If you're listening right now, we haven't asked before, but we're gonna ask now. Please leave us iTunes reviews. Leave us reviews on anything that you listen to, and follow and tweet at us. We're going to try to be more regular with our postings, but not going to lie, it's 2020 and it's hard out here. And Neysha's doing a whole ass MBA. So like,
I'm a weeb trying to get an MBA in a pandemic. Kate's running a website and a podcast network and writing. We're fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
We're fine. It's fine.
Just everything's on fire. But no, I think we've done good. We're proud of ourselves, but we will be more regular because we have tons of topics we want to talk about. And, we're going to get into it all. But yeah, until next time. So after this episode, will you check out Yaoi Crate and or get into Yaoi? Dip your toe in there. We gave you a crash course in the Yaoi 101. Hit up Kate for, suggestions. Will I ever convince Kate to watch One Piece? Am I winning?
Yeah, a little bit. I saw that scene where Zoro took on Luffy's pain, and I was like, "Fuck, this is cool."
There's heart.
Damn it.
There's heart. I told you. And lastly, dang it, I forgot the last one. Hold on. Usually you have one, and I.
Will you venture into Omegaverse? Find out next time on Did You Have To?
Bye.
Did You Have To is co-produced by Kate Sanchez and Lanisha Campbell. Our intro is done by Dr. Emery Stephen Daniel. And our outro and intro music is by Benjamin Tissot, aka Ben Sound.